Hello, YouTube, and welcome to Level-Headed News. This is your host, Brenda. I have 7 articles in this episode for you this morning, and all the URLs are in the description of the video for your convenience. We'll make sure we have audio going, and I'll hop right into them. There we go. All right. First one I have here is off of Report. It's called the Free Range Report, and it says, Bears Ear designation swallows up lifelong ranchers' water, grazing rights, and private property. The federal government should not have this kind of authority over state and local people, especially when the government employees are so influenced by and guided by special interest environmental groups. And there is a letter here. It's an open letter by Sandy L. Johnson. It says, Stewards of San Juan County, Utah. Senator, appreciate the time and help you have given to San Juan County residents and the state of Utah in opposing the Bears Ear National Monument. That President Trump will repeal the designation because, as you know, existing laws already deal with the issue being advanced by folks pushing for the movement. If repeal of the monument is not the action taken by the president, then downsizing the monument considerably is vital. I'm a lifetime resident of this county, and my ranch, my home, my water rights, my grazing allotment, my private land are swallowed up in this thing. Land within the monument. Here is a list of things I think should be considered. Try this again. The Glen Canyon Recreation Area borders the monument. This area includes hundreds of thousands of acres in San Juan County. Number 2, Wooden Shoe Canyon was withdrawn from multiple use by Forest Service bureaucrats some years ago, saying that it was no longer suitable for grazing. Even though it was grazed for over 100 years, along with similar adjacent land, it is now only accessible to hikers. This canyon lies within the monument and its thousands of acres. There are hundreds of thousands of acres like this already withdrawn from multiple use or in restricted use, such as Dark Canyon Primitive Area and Cane Gulch Grand Gulch areas, all within this new monument. National Bridge's National Monument was enlarged beyond its original size and lies within this new monument. There are already hundreds of thousands of acres of land set aside. There's no need for this monument of 1.35 million acres. Number 3, the original Bears Ear proposal was 1.9 million acres. One of the areas withdrawn from the original proposal was Red Canyon, probably because of all the mining activity that has gone on there. If you just go over of Red Canyon into the White Canyon area, you are in the monument. Yet there is the same impact of mining up and down the White Canyon corridor of Highway 95 from Wooden Shoe Buttes to Colorado River. There are mines and ore deposits all over this area. South Cottonwood Canyon, just west of Blanding, is the same. Highway 90, or number 4, Highway 95 runs through the monument. The Dineros mine in Red Canyon, but the access road to and from the mine to haul ore goes north to Highway 95. Is ore going to be allowed to be hauled on a highway through the monument? Even if it would be practical to build a road from the mine down into and across Red Canyon and back up the many miles to the Halls Crossing Highway, there you are right back in the monument. There are telephone towers with access roads on Mesa and Moss Blacks with repeaters, federal government outposts in places like Height and National Bridge. Other government agencies also have repeaters in these areas. These certainly should not be in a monument. And number 6, there are 3 full-time homes, 2 seasonal homes, over 1,000 acres of private land, and private water rights just in the Wooden Shoe White Canyon area alone. Number 7, gathering herbs and wood and visiting sacred sites in the Bears Ear area has always been permitted. No one has been prevented from doing these activities. This may not be the case with monument status, attracting crowds of people in the future and creating a need to restrict these traditional activities as well as others. Number 8, there are no archaeological ruins on Bears Ear. Most of the archaeological ruins in this entire monument lie on Cedar Mesa. Back in 1991, Mark Maryboy was a San Juan County Commissioner at the time. He worked with Utah Congressman Bill Orton, then in proposing Cedar Mesa as a national conservation area in order to preserve and protect archaeological sites, other sacred sites, and to gather medicinal herbs and plants. No mention in the Bears Ear was made by Mr. Maryboy or anyone else at that time. However, over 25 years or so ago, Mr. Maryboy has been associating with environmental groups for years, have been pushing for over 1 million acres of wilderness in this country, or in this county, much of which is now in this monument. As a paid consultant to the groups, Mr. Maryboy's relationship has been beneficial to them both. Number 9, these gatherings that were held near the Bears Ear in the past 2 summers were nothing more than orchestrated media propaganda and photo opportunities. Remember, I live out in this area. There have been no gatherings like this before these and none since. This is not a traditional event for American Indians or anyone else. In fact, quite a few of the folks got lost trying to get to the gatherings. They didn't know how to get to Bears Ear, let alone where to be held. Times by these lost folks and gave them directions. I won't even mention the damage they did to the area where they gathered, but if my cows did that kind of damage, I would be fined or have my permit canceled. Number 10, the federal government should not have this kind of authority over the state and local people, especially when the federal government employees are so influenced and guided by well-funded environmental groups. Again, thank you for your help with this federal land issue and for your work in the Senate. You can get this monument rescinded or downsized, and that my comments on specific areas within the monument are helpful. Sincerely, Sandy L. Johnson. A beautiful picture in this, if you want to pull it up and take a look at it. It's very well stated and worthwhile to bring to everyone's attention on that matter. Off of the hill. Stop the beeping over here. We'll get that shut down. It's very distracting. Okay, the next one, it's off the hill. It says Puerto Rico towards equality as the first Hispanic state. The island of Puerto Rico is more or less a subject of discussion on the national level. According to the latest census data, there are around 3.4 million of American citizens who live on the island of Puerto Rico and around 5 million who live in the mainland. Actually, Puerto Rico is an unincorporated territory of the United States, and while some think differently, Puerto Ricans are American citizens since 1917 by virtue of the Jones Act, and yet they are not allowed to vote for President of the United States. Moreover, since 1917, more than 200,000 American citizens from Puerto Rico have served in the United States Army and even armed conflicts since the Civil War, and there are about 10,000 Puerto Rican citizens that are actively servicing in all armed forces. The current political relationship between the island and the United States puts Puerto Ricans in a favorable position who are completely being subject to Article 4, Chapter 3, Clause 2 of the United States Constitution, also known as the Territorial Clause, which gives Congress the power to dispose and make all the rules respecting the territories. How Puerto Rico, the first Hispanic state? November the 6th of 2012, the people of Puerto Rico opened a completely new chapter in the political history of the island toward the statehood path. Since 1952 and the previous establishment of status described as Commonwealth, until today, the status quo has been and defeated in any electoral event. of the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico in 1952, 4 referendums were organized in order to resolve the status issue. The fourth referendum, held on November the 6th of 2012, gathered a new majority composed by a significant coalition of all Puerto Ricans, stateholders, independents, free association supporters, precisely 970,910 voters, representing 54% of the votes outside of party lines, defeated the actual political status. For the first time in our history, 834,191 voters, it says, elected the statehood as an option, despite being mostly by the center-oriented party of island. It's called the Popular Democratic Party. These results represent a mandate for change for both Democrats and Republicans in Washington. The month after the referendum was held, on December the 4th of 2012, then Democratic Hispanic spokesman of the White House, Luis Miranda, stated, the results were clear. The people of Puerto Rico want the issue of the status resolved, and the majority chose statehood in the second question. After the above-mentioned statement, the Obama administration carried out and accomplished an historical budget appropriation of $2.5 million for organization of a referendum options that must be approved by the Department of Justice before the electoral event. On the other hand, the Republican National Committee has approved in 2016 a commitment with Puerto Rico statehood, engaging the current Donald Trump administration to comply with its own platform. The 2012 local vote for statehood ratified, Congress should approve an enabling act with the terms for Puerto Rico's future admission as the 51st state of the Union. Months, Puerto Ricans on the island will have their hands in their hands another opportunity to ratify, not only to the United States, but to the whole world, their strong will for change and towards their current relationship with the United States through a referendum where the voters will be able to choose between statehood and independence. Both on the island and the mainland, some people have already demonstrated their resistance before Congress regarding the admission of Puerto Rico as the next state of the Union. The resistance against an equality movement is not a new phenomenon. We witnessed also before the slavery has been abolished in the United States, before the approval of the Civil Rights Act in the 1960s, before granting women the right to vote, and more recently with the Supreme Court decision giving equal rights to the LGBTQ community. At the end, all of those who were resisting found themselves on the wrong side of history. The community all around the United States has to consider Puerto Rican case more carefully. As a state, Puerto Rico will have 5 representatives and 2 senators in the Congress, which in total represent 7 additional Latino voices to push and improve the issues basis of, with almost 60 million Latinos in the United States. As a first Hispanic state, Puerto Rico has a chance to become a spokesman and very powerful political interest of our community in Washington. Moreover, it can serve as a liaison between the United States and the Caribbean and Latin America. It will take place inside and outside of Congress, which will try to divert attention from the important subject, or those who will raise the question of delaying Puerto Rican, which can be expected as a result of the establishment of the new Fiscal Oversight and Management Board. Therefore, we need to remind them that the struggle for equality and other civil rights shouldn't depend on the economy nor on anyone's vote, but rather on a claim of dignity for 3.4 million of American citizens on the island who deserve to be treated with equality. Next article is off Conservative Tribune. There we go. I was getting with it. And it's got some kind of a wanting to play here, and I'm wanting to shut it down. My goodness gracious. Under control. Now, if I could get it off the page so that I could actually see the article. Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We'll just this and see if we can't get it to come up without that on there, because it wasn't on there when I originally pulled it up. Bear with me here. Technical difficulties. Iran flaunts new missiles. Military releases clip of firing missile interception. Scroll down a little bit here. The United States, working in cooperation with Japan, successfully intercepted a ballistic missile target in training exercises in Hawaii, according to the UK Express. This exercise seemed to be in response to Iran's recent test of ballistic missile systems, which have not gone over well with either President Donald Trump or his administration. At 10:30 p.m. Hawaiian Standard Time on February the 3rd, Eastern Daylight Time, a medium-range ballistic missile target was launched from the Pacific Missile Range facility at Kauai, Hawaii, according to defense.gov. Get it to scroll up a little more here. The crew of the John Paul Jones detected and tracked the target missile with its onboard radar using the Aegis Baseline 9 system, the report continued. Upon acquiring and tracking the target, the ship launched an SM-3 Block 2A guided missile, which intercepted the target. It was a massive step in the right direction in terms of dealing with the threat that is an increasingly Iran. The Missile Defense Agency Director, Vice Admiral Jim Shuring, is elated. Today, tests demonstrate critical milestone in cooperative development of the SM-3 Block 2A missile, he said in a statement. The missile, developed jointly by a Japanese and U.S. government and industry team, is to both our nations and will ultimately improve our ability to defend against increasing ballistic missile threats around the world. And you can watch the footage released by the Department of Defense here in this article if you want to pull it up and see that for yourself. It says, although he didn't name Iran by name, I think he made his point clear. The next article we have is off of Breitbart.com. Google-founded company sues Uber over alleged tech theft. San Francisco. A self-driving car company founded by Google is colliding with ride, or I think it's supposed to be hauling, service, Uber, in a court battle revolving around allegations of betrayal, high-tech espionage, and greed. Down has emerged late Thursday in a lawsuit filed in a San Francisco federal court by Waymo, a once secretive self-driving company hatched by Google 8 years ago. The 28-page complaint accuses Anthony Lewandowski, a former top manager for Google's self-driving car project, of stealing pivotal technology now propelling Uber's effort to assemble a fleet of autonomous vehicles for its ride-hailing service. The alleged chicanery occurred in late 2015 before Lewandowski, I guess it is, left to found a startup called Otto, and that's OTTO, that is building big rig trucks that navigate highways without human behind the wheel. Uber bought Otto for $680 million last year, and Lewandowski is now overseeing Uber's effort to catch cars driven by robots. Uber and Lewandowski didn't immediately respond to requests for comment. The dispute highlights the high stakes between Google and Uber, two one-time allies that are morphing into rivals. Invested $258 million in Uber, but its mapping subsidiary Waze, and that's W-A-Z-E, is now expanding a carpooling service that could have riders away from Uber, or could lure riders away from Uber. The budding rivalry prompted a top Google executive, David Drummond, to resign from Uber's board of directors 6 months ago. Waymo now operates a subsidiary of Google's corporate parent, Alphabet Incorporated, but its roots are in Google, where Lewandowski worked for years. The complaint cites evidence Lewandowski loaded 14,000 confidential files on a laptop before leaving Otto. Theft included the designs for circuit boards needed for an array of sensors that enabled the self-driving car to see what's around them so they can safely navigate roads. Waymo contends other former Google employees also stole trade secrets before leaving to join Otto. Without the alleged skullduggery, Waymo alleges that Lewandowski, I'll get it right eventually, and other former Google employees wouldn't have been able to build the auto technology that generated the windfall from Uber's sale. Been around for less than a decade, Uber already has a reputation for testing legal boundaries. The San Francisco company has tangled with authorities in California and around the world about how much of its drivers' history should be covered in background checks and whether those drivers should be treated as contractors ineligible for employee benefits. Late last year, Uber quickly suspended a test in San Francisco after regulators revoked the vehicle's registrations for not having the proper permits. Waymo is seeking a court order prohibiting Uber from relying on its technology in its self-driving vehicles, as well as damages that could be tripled on some of the infringement claims if it prevails in court. Next article is off of BizPack Review, and it says, man allegedly jumps to his death just after being deported back to Mexico. A man in the United States illegally alleged committing suicide by jumping from a bridge near the Tijuana-San Diego border after being deported back to Mexico, officials say. Mexican officials are investigating the death of Guadalupe Olives Valencia. I'm not Mexican, so I have a rough time with these names. 44 years old, as a suicide after finding him lying dead beneath a bridge on February the 21st. For years, the Mexican nationals had been working illegally in the U.S. as a gardener in California, according to the reports. Valencia had been escorted across the border into Mexico after being deported earlier that day. He apparently became despondent and was stopped when he tried to walk right back into the U.S. minutes after being deported, officials say. Valencia's family said he sent most of his money back to Mexico to help care for his 3 sons. His wife passed away in 2014. The man alleged suicide became flashpoint with Mexicans who blamed President Donald J. Trump's immigration policies for the man's death. And Irma Delgado Rios insisted that Trump's policies have dealt psychological blow to illegals living in the U.S. Valencia's niece, Urbia, I guess it is, Urbia Valles de Espinoza, told the media that the man was working in the U.S. illegally to take care of his children. Despite this, though, another family source in Mexico said Valencia was trying to re-enter the U.S. to avoid problems in Mexico. Valencia's home was in Los Mochis in Sinaloa, a troubled region rife with murders and drug cartel activity. Mexican authorities report that the man refused to stay in the local near the border, but had accepted food provided by the National Institute of Migration in preparation for his bus ride back to Sinaloa. Witnesses say they heard him screaming that he wanted to go back to the USA just before he jumped to his death from the bridge. Mexican officials note that his body was lying next to a plastic bag full of his belongings, typically given to illegals being deported by the U.S. immigration officers. Some anti-Trump open borders advocates are already using the man's death to fuel their political message. Enrique Morones of Border angels attacked the Trump administration for the man's death. This is not what this country is all about, Morons told the Times of San Diego. The children hear their parents talk and fear that they may be taken away at any moment, he added. If he was here, then why didn't he try to apply for citizenship and do it correctly? I hate to sound like a hard ass on all this, but what's wrong with these people? I mean, they're here illegally. Start finding ways to get yourself citizenized. I'm not sure exactly what the right terminology would be there, but get citizenship and be in the country. If you're gonna be here, be here legally. Think about it. If you went to Mexico without going through the proper channels and were there illegally, how long do you think that would last? Or any other country for that matter. Next one's off BizPack Review. It says, New York Times under fire for ignoring Todd Starnes' best-selling book, Deplorables. He sold enough books to earn the #2 spot, but you won't find Fox News Radio's Todd Starnes on the New York Times bestsellers list, and he's not the only conservative author who has been ignored, according to Fox News. Deplorables, Guide to Making America Great Again, was named bestseller by Amazon and made other bestseller lists, including those of USA Today, Publishers Weekly, and Conservative Book Club. We were surprised to see that the New York Times didn't include Todd's book on its on its nonfiction paperback bestseller list. Frank Breeden, Starnes' literary agent, said. Nielsen Bookscan ranked his Deplorable Guide as the second best-selling paperback title that same week. Charisma House released Starnes' book February the 7th, and Executive Vice President Marco Perez said that the publisher was appalled by the subjective nature of this decision to exclude the book from the Times list. Starnes joins other conservative authors who have similarly been snubbed by the Times list. Texas Republican Senator Ted Cruz's memoir, A Time for Truth, did not make the list, as Dinesh D'Souza's America in 2014, David Limbaugh's Jesus on Trial, a lawyer affirms the truth of the gospel. Conservative author Dick Morris said the Times removed his book, Revolt, from its list, along with books by former Arkansas Governor Mike Huckabee and Fox News contributor Frank Luntz. Our lists are compiled from reporting panel of stores and vendors, which is separate and independent from any other organization. Our rankings can be similar, but are often different from other lists. Senior Vice President of the New York Times, Eileen Murphy, told Fox News by email. In the case of this book, it simply did not meet our standard for inclusion. We recently cut our list in case of paperback nonfiction from 10, so they are not even more competitive than they had been, Murphy said. The overall theme of my new book is that change may start at the White House, but it finishes at your house. Winning was just the beginning, said Starnes, who has just been at Fox News Radio for more than a decade. He spoke about his book and read an excerpt during an interview on Fox and Friends earlier this month. Is some video of him talking about his new book in this article, and a lot of comments here under it if you want to pull that up and take a look at that. The final, last but not least, article that I have for you here is off of Western Journalism, and it says, James O'Keefe's releases, or try this again, 119 hours of raw audio from within CNN headquarters. We knew it was coming, didn't we? In an effort to expose CNN's media malfeasance, James O'Keefe of Project Veritas on Thursday released of raw audio recorded within the network's Atlanta headquarters in 2009. The self-proclaimed guerrilla journalist obtained the secretly recorded audio from an anonymous source from within CNN and released the tapes in a WikiLeaks-style dump CNN leaks. This is the beginning of the end for the mainstream media, O'Keefe wrote on Twitter after releasing the tapes. And his tweet says, I want to start exposing the media and their flaws. This is the beginning and the end for MSM, and it starts today. Provided a portion of the leaked tapes in a video released Thursday by Project Veritas. Joe Sterling, who was the news desk editor for CNN's The Wire in 2009, is heard comparing skepticism on climate change. That issue, climate change, I mean, science is pretty much on board, and there are a few dissenters, Sterling says. There's no debate. It's like, born again, a debate over, creationism. There is no debate, unquote. Then CNN assignment desk editor Nikki Robinson is also Fox News, says Fox News, I think Fox News is horrible, Robinson says. And this, if you want to pull it up and take a look at that, says shortly after releasing the leaked audio, CNN leaks had caught the attention of President Donald Trump. And O'Keefe tweets that real Donald Trump has seen and heard about the Project Veritas CNN leaks. He said, that is so cool. Been criticized for using misleading editing techniques, made the decision to release all of the CNN tapes directly to the public in an effort to crowdsource the investigation into the footage. Time for manpower to go through all the tapes. So we'd like you to go through the tapes for us, go through them, listen to them, transcribe them, see what you can discover, O'Keefe said. The guerrilla journalist went a step further, offering a $10,000 reward for anyone willing to provide video or audio exposing malfeasance in the mainstream media. Tweets, if you are an employee in a newsroom and hear or see something unethical, record it. I'll pay you $10,000. O'Keefe is so determined to take the fight to the mainstream media, he's going to go to jail to protect the names of any potential whistleblowers. Inside a newsroom, I will go to jail to protect your name. We will defend you. Come to me. Come to us. I will protect you, O'Keefe wrote in a tweet. Have for you today. If you like what you see here, give it a thumbs up. Social media so everybody gets to hear the news, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done that yet. That way you'll stay informed. Have a great day.